Okay, the next thing that we're going to be reviewing today is punctuation marks. And this is one of my favorite memes, let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma. You can see at the bottom it says punctuation saves lives. So without the punctuation of that comma there, it's saying that we should actually eat grandma. And with the comma there, because grandma's an interjection, you're able to see that you're saying to your grandmother, hey, let's eat. So punctuation is really super important. It helps us to read things correctly. It helps us to know when to pause. And it really, the biggest thing is it helps us with meaning. So we're going to go through the punctuation marks today so that you can kind of get a refresher in each one. So the first thing is an apostrophe, and you can see over here in the left-hand corner, that's what an apostrophe looks like. You use an apostrophe to indicate a missing letter or letters in a contraction or to show possession in certain words. So our very first example, we can't go outside right now because it's raining. Can't and it's are both contractions. So can't means cannot, and it's means it is. Now, the next example is going to show us possession. Maisha's poem was full of imagery and figurative language. So you see that apostrophe S, that's going to show us possession. Now remember that we never show possession with pronouns using an apostrophe. Moving on, we're going to look at brackets and parentheses. Again, over here on the left side, you can see what those look like. And brackets are curved lines that are going to be used to separate explanations or qualifying statements within a sentence. And we're using it right here. Each one of the curved lines is called a parenthesis. So a lot of times you're going to see parentheses used to add extra detail or to give further information. When we're citing a source, when we're writing for research, a lot of times we're going to use that MLA method or ACA as well, where we're putting parentheses and we're putting authors down in the parentheses. So here are two examples here. We're going to cancel the baseball game. That's one thought. You can see that one thought. And I'm adding some extra details within the parentheses due to inclement weather so that they know why it's being canceled. Now, I could in this sentence actually totally drop the parentheses and just put due to inclement weather, but it's a way to kind of show that this is what your thought is. Here's your statement. Here's your thought. The family visited the Parthenon, and then in parentheses, the extra information, a former temple on the Athenian Acropolis. So again, there's another way we could separate this. We could actually use a comma to show added information, but that's how we're going to use a parentheses. Colons. Over here on the left side, you can see what a colon looks like. It's those two dots. You're going to use a colon before a list that is preceded by a complete independent clause. So down in the bottom, you can see below is a list of groceries needed from the store, and then bananas, frozen pizza, yogurt. You could also do a complete a dependent clause here where you put groceries needed from the store and then your colon. Commas are going to be used for multiple reasons, but the most common are to separate three or more items in a series or to connect two sentences together. So I'm making chicken, pasta, and steamed vegetables for dinner. You can see my list. It's using three items in a series: chicken, comma, pasta, comma, steamed vegetables. Those are my three items in a series. And then below that, our example, I'm making dinner in 5 minutes, comma, but I need you to clean up the kitchen before I start. That's an example of two separate sentences that are joined by the word but and the comma. So here's my first thought, first sentence, I'm making dinner in 5 minutes. I could put a period there and then start, I need you to clean up the kitchen before I start, period. So you can see two separate sentences just joined by a comma and but. Exclamation marks. Again, you can see it right over there in the left-hand corner. You're going to use an exclamation mark at the end of a sentence to show strong emotion. So two examples: wow, that was an amazing dunk, or the concert was phenomenal. Now, Exclamation marks can sometimes be overused. I have to kind of watch myself in emails. A lot of times I try to show excitement or enthusiasm. And so using that exclamation point shows that strong emotion. But sometimes if we use it too much, it just looks either unprofessional or it's, again, too much. If you see a ton of exclamation marks and you're trying to show excitement, sometimes it could come across actually as like frustrated or they can be misread a lot. So just make sure while you're writing email and notes and things like that, that we're not overusing them, meaning we're not using them after every single sentence. A period, that's going to bring us to a full stop. So you're going to use a full stop at the end of a declarative sentence or a command. We use parentheses to show that thought inside there, a sentence which states an idea. So do your homework. That's a command there. And then it's Monday, May 11th. That's just declarative. So you see a period after both. Next is a hyphen. So a hyphen is used between parts of a compound word or name, and it's also used to split a word by syllables to fit on one line of a text. So first, let's take care of this first idea. Mrs. Smith worked as a part-time teacher. A lot of times you're going to see hyphenated words when it's an adjective, when it's describing. So you can see in our first example that it's actually an adjective to describe teacher. What kind of teacher is she? She's a part-time teacher. And so when it's an adjective, you're usually going to use a hyphen. Now, I switched the words around so that you didn't need a hyphen. Mrs. Smith worked part-time. And in this case, it's not showing an adjective, it's showing two separate words here. Then moving down, the car crashed in the high-speed chase, and the car crashed because the car was driving at a very high speed. So you can see the differences between this. High speed is going to be hyphenated again because it's one complete adjective, whereas very high speed is an adverb and then adjective, adjective. For hyphens, for the end of a text, we actually ran into this year when we were doing read alouds, where some people were accidentally reading one little part of the word and then starting down at the bottom and thinking those were two separate words. It's when we're reading and we come to the end of a page and they need to still fit that word on the page, a lot of times they'll hyphenate it and break it into 2 syllables or 3 syllables so you can read it. Next, a question mark. So you're going to use a question mark at the end of an interrogative sentence. That's pretty self-explanatory. So here are some examples. How many books have you read during the Savor at Home order? What is your pet's name? 2 examples of where you would use question marks. I see sometimes where somebody will say, I was wondering if I could have an extra day on my assignment, right? And they put a question mark on it. Even though wondering, the word wondering implies that you're questioning yourself, it's not phrased in the form of a question, so you're not going to use a question mark just because you use the word wondering or I had a question. The statement, I had a question, is just that. It's a statement. It's a complete statement. So you wouldn't put I had a question and then a question mark, right? You have to actually be asking a question with that. Next, a semicolon. So semicolon is going to be used when 2 independent clauses in a sentence are not connected by a conjunction, such as and. So earlier we talked about that conjunction but. There are a bunch of different conjunctive phrases. So it could be and, if, or, but, so. Those are all examples of conjunctions. So you're using a semicolon when you're not including one of those words. So below is an example. There were 7 members of the Lutheran basketball league team, semicolon, because it's not saying and they are, or it doesn't have yet, so anything in between that's a conjunction. So you're putting down 5 members from Trinity Lutheran Church and to, from, Emmanuel Wauwatosa. So you see those independent clauses. And the very last one, quotation marks. Quotation marks are used at the beginning and end of a phrase to show that it's being written exactly as it was originally said or written. And then they're also used for certain titles. So the very first example is an example of a title. I love the song Who Is Like the Lord by Israel Houghton. Who Is Like the Lord is my title. And for song titles, you're going to put them in quotation marks. But then the next one's just a direct quote. So it's exactly what Dr. Seefeld said. Dr. Seefeld exclaimed, "Our students and parents at Trinity are awesome." And so you can see that's just a direct quote, exactly what he said. Now to close, we're going to actually read a story called Punctuation Takes a Vacation. If you know all this, it was a great review, go ahead and start your homework. But if you want to get a little further assistance, this book is a great way to kind of break down how important punctuation is.
Day after day, the punctuation marks showed up in Mr. Wright's classroom. Day after day, they did their jobs. They put up with being erased and replaced and corrected and ignored and moved around. Then, on the hottest, stickiest day the class had ever seen, right in the middle of a lesson about commas, Mr. Wright mopped his forehead and said, "Let's give punctuation a vacation." As the kids cheered and headed for the playground to cool off, the punctuation marks stared at one another in disbelief. "Is this the thanks we get?" asked a question mark. "Well," puffed an exclamation point. Now," said a comma. "We should take a vacation," said a period. "They'll soon learn how much they need us." "It's 11 o'clock now," said a colon. "Let's leave at 11:02. "Great," said an exclamation point. "Don't leave without us," yelled the apostrophes. Whoosh! Punctuation rushed out the door. Whoosh! They rushed back in to grab the quotation marks, who were too busy talking to pay attention. When Mr. Wright's class returned from the playground, they couldn't wait to find out what happened in Chapter 4 of their book, Ace Scooper, Dog Detective. Mr. Wright opened his mouth to read aloud, but then he stopped and stared. "This is weird. The punctuation is missing. Uh-oh, where could it be? Yikes, maybe punctuation took a vacation. We are in big trouble now." Mr. Wright was right. Nothing made sense without punctuation. Do you miss us? How much? Why couldn't we take a vacation sooner? Guess who? A couple of days later, the school secretary delivered a small bundle of postcards to Mr. Wright's class. They were postmarked, "Take a break, Lake." We flop, we plop, we stop, we stay put in our lounge chairs. We are happy thinking our complete thoughts. Thoughtfully, your sentence stoppers. Dear friends, swimming, sailing, sunning, soaring, water skiing. Next time, we must remember bug spray, toothpaste, flashlight, water shoes. Sincerely, list makers. Greetings to Mr. Wright's class. This postcard doesn't take the place of a letter. If anybody takes the place of a letter, that's us. It's our job. We know we're possessive, but that's the way we are. Don't forget us while we're gone. Substitutes. A big hello from Vacation Paradise, where the water is as clear as a well-punctuated sentence. We talk all day, we talk all night. Too busy talking to write any more. The yakety yaks. Kids, Writing this on schedule at 1:15, yummy lunch at 11:55, going swimming at 3 o'clock sharp, the timekeepers. Wow, what a ride! You should try tubing. Scary, fun. Yikes! Hold on! We want mommy! Emotional us. The kids guessed who wrote the postcards, and they wanted to write back, but they couldn't write without punctuation. The best they could do was borrow some from Mr. Rongo's class next door, where punctuation seemed to be running wild. Dear punctuation, please come back. We need you. We miss you too. Life at school is difficult without you. We can't do reading, writing, or riddles without punctuation. Chapter 4 of our book, Ace Scooper, doesn't make sense. We will never take punctuation for granted again. Won't you please come back before 10 on Friday? Mr. Wright says, punctuation, please come home. Sincerely, Mr. Wright's class. So the punctuation marks returned to Mr. Wright's classroom to do the job only they could do. Mr. Rongo's unruly punctuation scrambled back to their own classroom. We have so much to tell you. Who did you miss the most? It's good to be back in Mr. Wright's class. Commas, periods, exclamation points, question marks, colons, apostrophes, quotation marks. Take your places. 10 o'clock a.m. Time to study us. Punctuation rules. Quotation marks belong at the beginning and end of words a person speaks. The question mark comes at the end of a question. Use a comma to separate each item in a series or list. A comma also separates two complete thoughts in a sentence. Use an exclamation point after a word or sentence that expresses strong feelings. An apostrophe takes the place of a letter and changes two words into one word. An apostrophe is used with the letter S to show ownership or possession. The colon lets you know what time it is. It separates the big guys, hours, from the little guys, minutes. The period is the stop sign at the end of a sentence or complete thought. It is also used in abbreviations. Punctuation marks work together to make reading and writing flow smoothly. Mr. Wright said, "Thank you very much," when we gave him a t-shirt from Take a Break Lake. Did anybody find my missing flip-flop? Where, oh, where could it be? That's question marks flip-flop. I didn't know. It's in my suitcase. I collected shells, stones, blisters, pine cones, feathers, and bug bites. It was fun, but I am so tired. Hey, look! Great photos of us at Take a Break Lake. Gosh, it's 2:15. Time to return the library book I took on vacation. This photo is of me. I stopped two sentences from crashing into each other at the corner of Bay Street and Lake Ave.
Okay, so middle schooler, hopefully that helped you. We are going to move on. You can definitely go ahead and get started on your review for the week. Take care. Bye.